Hi, I'm Jean Burke with College Prep Genius. Thank you so much for listening to Free College at Your Fingertips. I am so sorry I can't be with you there at the HEAV 2022 conference. Due to a family illness, I am back home in Texas for a while, but I'd love to get this information out to your families because I know what it's like to not have any money for college and ultimately get free college. So hopefully this information will help you because it is a lousy investment to spend years paying for something that you did in a 4-year period. So this seminar is going to be jam-packed full of lots of information. As a matter of fact, you might even feel like a brain overload, but don't worry. I'm going to give you the link, excuse me, to how to get to the notes with that texting 256-293-5265. I will show you how you can get all these notes and links that we're going to be talking about today. Plus, you get more tips on how to get free college. And I'll recap that again in the end. Now, $100,000 doesn't feel like it would pay for college, and it actually doesn't. If you don't have $100,000 for college per child, then you're like pretty much everybody else, because we certainly didn't. And the thing about it is that is not even the high-end range of college. That's kind of an average price for a state school. Certainly there are schools that are in the $160,000, $70,000, $200,000, $300,000 range. But today we're going to talk about how to go for free. Now, when it comes to money, we want our kids to have skin in the game. So how can your kids make this kind of money? Well, they could work at a fast food restaurant like McDonald's, 13,000 hours. And if they started in kindergarten and then finished up in 12th grade, then they would have $100,000. So start them early, get them going on that right now. Or they can mow 3,200 lawns. That's going to take 64 summers. Or they can babysit 2,500 Friday nights. And again, we're talking 48 years just to save up $100,000, which we know doesn't necessarily even going to cover the cost of most colleges. But definitely there's a better way, and that, of course, is scholarship money, the money that you don't have to pay back. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how your kids can tap in to money that can set them up for a great success when they graduate and not have that debt hanging over their heads. Now, the reality check really is that as it stands right now, that 60% of students will not graduate in a 6-year period. And 30% will drop out after the first year, and about 50% will drop out after the second year. Only about 1/3 will actually graduate from college that enrolls. And many of these students who enroll are going to need some remedial classes. But even the ones who don't graduate, 85% of them are still going to end up with some kind of debt hanging over their heads. Now, let's talk about the first way to get free college, and that is to ace the SAT monster. And I say monster because it really is this daunting, overwhelming test that a lot of people are intimidated by because they have taken a test and didn't do as well or didn't reflect their GPA. But let's talk about 3 myths. There's a 13 myths that I talk about in my program, but I want to go over 3 of the top ones to help you understand about this test. Now, the first one is it tests your knowledge, or your IQ, or how smart you are, what school you go to. But actually, that's not true. The SAT is a logic test. And the College Board trademarked the word reasoning test a few years ago, which basically means to come to a conclusion using your logical senses and your critical thinking skills. And the test makers, denied that for years, that it was more about what you learn in school. But they finally came clean in their College Board Student Study Guide in 2021. But these tests are logic tests. And you'll see right here, if you'll notice from their book, it says, where I highlighted, it measures your reasoning and critical thinking skills, which will be important for you through college and beyond. So finally, they say, okay, it's not really about what you learn in school. And the problem why most students don't do well is because it takes a different skill set, and which is not taught in school. So even really smart kids or valedictorians or top 10% of school often get a terrible score because they don't understand test taking techniques. And so we're going to show you how anybody can beat these tests today. Now, the second myth is that the SAT is something you should wait till later on, until late into junior, into the early to the senior year to start thinking about. Well, that's really the last time to start thinking about it, because you've got so much going on. Now, if you have a senior right now or rising senior next year, there's still plenty of time to do well and to excel and to improve. But for the most part, that's a time when students are thinking about the graduation ceremonies and what college they want to go to, and so many things are going on. They're busy with school and part-time job and sports and friends. So lots going on. So don't wait until then. Start kids early. You can take these tests, fourth or fifth grade if you want to. We have a lot of sixth and seventh graders who do our program, but the key is to make the senior year test optional. In other words, just save that last year just in case you need a little bit higher score. Myth number 3, it takes a lot of money to beat these tests. We hear a lot on the news about how a lot of people say, well, these tests are unfair because only really the rich kids get the high score. So untrue. We had no money for college. Definitely wasn't rich, and we got free college because we understood how to start preparing for an actual test and figured it out, and got full ride, free tuition, room and board, grad school, honors dorms, study abroad stipends, and the list goes on and on because of a test score. So this is not something that you have to spend tons and tons of money on to do well. As a matter of fact, a lot of very expensive programs have a lot of busy work for students to learn more math and to learn more vocabulary and grammar, and pretty much they're reteaching school all over again, excuse me, which is a waste of time. You cannot study for these tests. You study the tests themselves. The questions are purposely misleading, and the wrong answers can be very appealing. So it's really easy for anybody, even really, really smart kids, to do terrible on them. And even Khan Academy, which is a great resource for subject matter, is not a good source for test taking because they won't teach you how to answer questions in 30 seconds or less. They will teach you the long way, how to show your work, but that doesn't help you on a test that you get so little time per question. So let's talk about SAT versus ACT. Guess what? It does not matter which one your child takes. Every single college, 100% of colleges will take either one. So it doesn't matter. And they're about 99% the same test. So there's that crossover of information that works on both. Very minor differences. But both of them were written by the same people, and they're both used for college entrance as well as scholarship money. Now, if a college does prefer one over the other, they will convert the score. So a 1340 SAT is the same as a 29 on the ACT or vice versa. But the great thing is strategies can be used on both of them. There's no need to basically prep differently because they were written by the same people, and they're pretty much a standardized test, which has standardized questions and standardized answers. Now, I definitely want you to know about the CLT if you haven't heard of it yet. It is the alternative to the SAT and ACT. It's been around about 6.5 years. We are the official test prep for the CLT. And now BC, before COVID, they were in a couple hundred colleges. But during the pandemic, when everything was shut down and all the SATs and ACTs were canceled, every college took the CLT because it was already remotely proctored. As a matter of fact, their enrollment skyrocketed to 5,000%. Now, because we're their official test prep, they gave me the partner ID CPG25 to give to y'all. So if you use that code whenever you sign up for a CLT, you can get 25% off. So cltexam.com, check them out. They're a great organization, and the test is only 2 hours long. And so you can do it on your own device. Now, yes, it was a differentiator during the COVID lockdowns, but if your student is planning on going to a top tier Ivy League school where all the kids already have the high SAT and ACT scores, this allows the difference that will make your child stand out, because most people don't even know about the CLT. If you want to find out more tips on how to beat the CLT, go to collegeprepgenius.com/CLT. And you'll notice this is a letter from Harvard that was sent to Jeremy Tate, the founder of the CLT, and you'll notice a date on there, 2019, again, which is BC. And notice that Harvard says, yes, we consider candidates who have the CLT. We are definitely interested in the CLT. So again, a great test that you want to check out. Now, I want to show you the minor differences between the SAT, ACT, and CLT as far as timing. Notice how little time you get per question. 36 seconds, 52, 47, 60, 52. So you can see why most students can't finish these tests on time if they approach them the normal way. So if you don't know the fast ways, you're not going to get the best possible score. But every question is designed to be answered in 30 seconds or less. So there's a long way and then there's a short way to answer every question. Now, how would you like your sophomore to get a full ride before they even hit the junior year? And that is based on the CLT 10. Now, the classic learning test, which we talked about a moment ago, has a scholarship test in the 10th grade. Very much on par with the PSAT NMSQT in the junior year. Now, they partnered with the NAS, the National Association of Scholars, and this test is generally offered 3 times a year, September, February, and April. Now, your sophomores can take it all 3 times, and they'll take the highest score. So you, as a parent, get to practice the test at home. Proctor the test at home. And again, you can use that code partner ID CPG25 to get 25% off. A lot of our students are in the top 1% on this test. So you can not only get these amazing scholarship money coming to you as a sophomore, there's also a $2,500 extra bonus that comes to the students. They get the top 1%. And you can also use it as leverage. So if there's a school that your child wants to go to that does not accept the CLT or CLT 10 yet, it's a great way to share with them the information. So hopefully they'll adopt the CLT, or you can leverage that scholarship to see what they will do for you because of the other offers that they've received. So it definitely can be a game changer for your students. And so I highly recommend, and your 9th graders can take the CLT 10 early just for practice. Now, standardized tests is so important, especially for us homeschoolers, because they can look at our transcripts and think to themselves, well, how do we know you didn't just make this stuff up? How can we validate, give credibility to your transcripts? So this is why it's important that your students learn how to beat these tests. And of course, don't neglect the PSAT. Now, the PSAT only counts in the junior year for the National Merit Scholarship Program. But the P doesn't stand for practice. It stands for preliminary. And the full name is PSAT/NMSQT, National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Now, the test is also made by the College Board. So if you're studying for one, you're studying for the other one. SAT and PSAT are basically the same test. There's only a 15-minute difference. So the PSAT is a little shorter with one less passage and a little less math. But there's no need to prepare any differently. Both have the same logic and reasoning type questions. And it is a bragging right for colleges to have National Merit Scholars at their school. This is why they are willing to roll out that red carpet and give you amazing perks and full rides based on a junior PSAT. Now, every state has a cutoff score that's very different. The predicted cutoff score for Virginia is a 1480 or a 221 index number. So that can kind of help you gauge on where you're at right now. Now, your younger students can totally take the PSAT for practice. 8th and 9th graders can take the PSAT 8-9 at the local school. Just call the schools. The PSAT 10 as a sophomore. But the October year is when it counts. But start your kids early because you can't get time back. And you have time on your side now to really solidify the information so before it counts in that junior year. Also, when you take it earlier, you get your test booklet back, which allows you to go over your weaknesses and try to work on self-correcting mistakes. But for the PSAT, you sign up actually at the school, not online like you do for the SAT. Now, another way to get free college is to be low income. Now, you may be saying, well, we are because we're homeschoolers and we have one income. But let me explain what I mean by that. There are many colleges, and in this case, this particular link is 72 colleges that will give your students a full ride. This is based on low income, which they may consider $40,000 to $65,000. But Stanford and Princeton consider $140,000 low income. Now, these are what's called cost containment programs, where they have removed their loans and replaced them with grants. Now, you still have to be able to be accepted, get in with your minimum SAT scores and all of that, but all the Ivy Leagues participate in this. Now, that link there for no loans for low income, that will all be in your notes that I'll give you in the end. Now, there are colleges that will cap their loans at $5,000. So in other words, that's the most that you ever have to pay. So more about that on projectonstudentdebt.org, which will be in your notes. Now, there are also colleges that love to give scholarships to students with low GPAs. They call it We Love a Challenge, and that's ctcl.org. Now, how would you like to eat your way to free college? Sounds like a really good plan. So there's a program called You Promise. And what this does, this gives your family from 1 to 25% back on everyday purchases like groceries, going out to dinner, buying gasoline. There are hundreds of retailers online that participate. There's thousands of restaurants. If you have a 529, you can also link that to the You Promise. And you can make this a family affair. So you could get your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa and brothers and cousins. They can all register under your child's name as well. So when they go out to eat or buy groceries or participate in one of these programs, then a percentage of their money will go toward your child's education. Now, one of the things that you want to do ASAP, and that is to fill out the FAFSA. Now, the FAFSA is only opened up on the senior year, and it opens up opening day on October 1. So it's important that you have all your paperwork ready to go. 80% of families will make one or more mistakes and lose out on funding. Now, who fills out the FAFSA? Everyone. If you've won the lottery or you got an inheritance, still fill it out. There's actually free money for everybody, but most people don't know that. They make mistakes and wait too late, maybe March or April, to fill it out when it's a first come, first served basis. Now, it will change in 2023, but it's just going to be more streamlined. Now, the reason why everyone should fill out the FAFSA, because there's not just your federal aid, which tends to be more for the low income families. There is state aid as well as institutional aid that you won't be able to qualify for unless you fill it out. Now, you and your student can go ahead and get the FSA ID number. You can do that anytime. And then they're going to base, it's pretty much parent driven as far as income is concerned. But if your student is in what's called the base year, the BY, that is the spring of the sophomore year in high school. That is known as the base year. There are actual things that you can do to help lower your EFC. It's the year that you don't want to take a big raise or sell a big piece of property or anything, because when you fill out your FAFSA in the senior year, they're going to use what's called the prior. That means the 2 years before, and that's called the base year. So there's definitely some things that you can do to help minimize that so you don't get hit with like showing that you have a lot of money and maybe you didn't. Now, it takes about 1 hour to fill out the FAFSA. And this is why we start talking about getting forms ready in September, so they'll be all ready, and you do the worksheet ahead of time to get it perfect before you actually fill out the real FAFSA. Now, to find out the cost of colleges, you can go to Net Price Calculator, Google that along with the school, and that'll give you a good idea of what the cost of the school is going to be. Now, early college is where your students will get some credit before they actually go off to university. Now, early college or dual credit is named different things. It's where you, for example, dual credit or early college is where your students can do what's called a 2+2+2, and that is where they'll take high school and college credit at the same time, simultaneously getting credit for both. Now, again, dual credit may or may not transfer. Sometimes they use it more for internal placement or honors classes. AP classes, these are advanced placement by the College Board. Over 90 colleges accept AP credits. You take a May test, and then you end up getting anywhere from a 1 to 5. Usually a 3 or above will get you college credit on your AP test. More of a top tier school, looking more at 4s and definitely 5s. And then clapping is where you can clap out. The tests correspond to a 90-minute semester, a full semester, 90-minute test. And you can clap out. And again, be careful because not everybody takes clapping as well. You want to do your research. Some students will get too many college credits, and then the scholarships are nullified because they're a transfer student. You can also do what's called freshman year for free, where your students can get their whole year for free online. These are classes from Princeton and Harvard professors. It's basically you just pay for the test, or for the military, you get your test paid for. And so that's modernstates.org. Now, there's also colleges that are called Hard Work U. And these colleges are where the students, nobody pays for the school, but everybody works. So, for example, the College of the Ozarks in Missouri has a dairy. Some colleges don't hire janitors or cooks, and then the kids all do that. The Berea College in Kentucky, Blackburn College in Illinois. So again, low acceptance rate, but if you can get in with your SAT scores and all, then your college is paid for. So another way, opportunity for your students. Now, there's a lot of colleges that have tremendous funding. They have such huge endowments that it doesn't cost anything to go there. Curtis Institute of Music in Pennsylvania, Burke College in Kansas, Webb Institute in New York, all the military academies. Again, you've got to be accepted. You have to have the test scores, but otherwise nobody pays. And so, again, another opportunity to not be strapped with years and years of college debt. Now, let's talk about how the numbers have it. The cost of college has gone up 600% in the last 25 years. We as a nation are in a $2.1 trillion debt when it comes to college loans. But again, there's good news because there's $24 billion worth of outside private scholarships and over $120 billion worth of financial aid and funding. And 85% of colleges are going to admit and give money simply based on a test score. There's also 400 colleges that will meet up to 100% of need. Now, need does not mean you're needy, doesn't mean you're poor or destitute. That's just the formula that the colleges use when they subtract the cost of attendance minus the EFC equals need. Now, these are not cheap schools. These are $100,000, $200,000 schools that we're talking about. So the number one criterion for free college is ultimately going to be your test scores, because the goal when you're looking into get college and getting college paid for is to have a high COA and a low EFC, a high cost of attendance and a low estimated family contribution. That's what's going to create that need. And so there's so many different legitimate loopholes and strategies that you can do to help get that college paid for. But ultimately, no matter what you do, you're still going to have the test score to get in, and especially for us as homeschoolers. Now, one of the things about the test scores is even if you have a low GPA or you fall into that stuck in the middle where most people are, the high test scores can mitigate all that. So if you are in that low to middle income or middle to high income where you don't fall under the state Pell Grant or low income, then you can actually start getting full tuition up to full rides by finding colleges where your students' stats are above the 75th percentile. So how do you find that? Well, if you go to the common data set or Google the name of the school you want to go to plus the word common data set, that will show you all the stats of the colleges, thousands of colleges, and you want to find the ones where your students' SAT or ACT scores are well above the 75th percentile. Now, if you happen to fall under the low income bracket and you have high test scores, then you can get basically free college to the top 25% of the schools, including the Ivy Leagues. Now, it's really important when it comes to doing test scores and getting your scores in, that you realize that you can take it as many times as you want. Colleges are not going to think you're dumb. And, up until just recently, a lot of colleges were still test optional unless you needed scholarship money, until about a month ago when MIT announced that they were going back to testing because it was the only fair way to compare all students equally and to help students in underserved communities. They knew that not only does it level the playing field, but also those students didn't have access to a really expensive high school or prep school. So this is why these test scores level the playing field, because a 4.0 at one school is not the same at another. Every school calculates their scores differently. So the only fair way to compare all students is a test score like an SAT or ACT. And you can take the SAT unlimited amounts of time. There are no penalties. They don't average your scores. Both SAT and ACT are offered 7 times a year. The ACT you can take up to 12 times. but both of them will apply to any college. No age limit. And we have a lot of our younger students who do our program and who take the test early. Not only do they have time on their side, but because of score choice, you don't even have to send your scores anywhere until you're ready. Now, one of the things about learning test prep is that I'm such a big believer that it should be in your home. It should be another class that complements your math and your English and your writing and your grammar and all those, because it's a different skill set and your kids will be tested all their life. And so we teach you how to answer these questions in 30 seconds or less without a calculator on the math, and these tests are designed for carelessness because they know that students have very little time per question, so they're going to rush and make a lot of mistakes. So I'm going to show you some examples on how your students can actually beat these tests. So in meters, the length of a box is 3 meters less than twice its width. Which of the following gives the length of the box in meters in terms of the width of the box in meters? Now, this is what I call pull out the math, because you get about a minute per question, but you'll notice something very interesting in the question. Length is L, is means equal, 3 of course is 3, less than is a minus sign, and twice its width is 2W. Now, we just pulled out the answer from the question. If we look down our answer choices, y'all, everybody look at our answers and look for the one that contains all those key elements. And you can tell it is D. D is correct. It is what we call see the math and don't do the math. So whether your students are good in math or bad in math does not matter. These are not math tests. These are logic tests using math as the medium. Now you have to know basic math, of course. There are no new questions. This is not a reading test. It's not a writing test. It is simply a logic test. And that's how you study for this test, by studying the patterns that reoccur on the test. Now, there are 2 words on the writing portion that are always wrong, 100% wrong. And so when you see them, you can immediately eliminate those answer choices. And those are having and being. Now, in the writing portion, there's 13 recurring problems. So there's no need to learn a ton of grammar and rehash all that over again. Just learn the recurring problems. They fall under my acronym Insight Answers. And the I stands for ing words, especially having and being. Let me give you an example. Many constituents complain about the mudslinging commercials made by candidates being arisen during political campaigns in a voting year. Now that hurt our ears, right? Because it's grammatically incorrect. But in all honesty, you didn't even have to read it, because once you saw the underlying part and saw the word being, you can know that it's not going to be correct, which means the answer is not going to be A, no change. Now, if you look at our answer choices, C has being and D has having, which are both incorrect. And that leaves us with B, which is correct. All right, so let me show you one more math. This is an ACT math problem, which has 5 answer choices instead of 4. For all non-zero real numbers are as A and B, such that A over B equals 5R over 4S. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to S? Okay, again, you can spend several minutes on this problem, and it's going to burn the clock up. Even students who are really good in math often get a low score because they're spending too much time working it out, when there's a fast way to work out every problem. Now notice 3 out of 5 of them have a 4 as a denominator. Sorry, my animation's off a bit. 3 out of 5 of them have A as a denominator. 3 out of 5 of them have a 5 as a numerator, and 3 out of 5 of them have an RB. And that answer is K. Okay? Sometimes the animation jumps around a little bit. Again, no math, no calculations. This is what I call clone invasion. So let me show you how your students can earn $500 an hour for college. If they can take a prep class that teaches them not content, not more math or vocabulary, but teaches them that this is logic and that they use the same recurring patterns over and over again, there are no new questions, then they can learn to cut their time in half and find the answers very quickly. Accuracy before speed. Then go back over the materials, because they're going to retain about 10% of what they hear the first time. So they really need to solidify it so they can apply it appropriately. and then go learn something that is going to jar their memory, like an acronym, to remind them what to do in every question type. And then take a lot of practice tests, 20, 25 practice tests, which are going to be 3 hours long. And by doing all this, going over your mistakes, self-correcting them, if the student put 150 hours into this test and received a $75,000 scholarship, that is like making $500 an hour for college. Way better than working at McDonald's or mowing lawns. If they were to receive a $150,000 scholarship, that's like making $1,000 an hour for college. And we have had numerous students do this. Kids who've raised their SAT as much as 700 points, ACT as high as 9 points. A lot of our students are National Merit Scholars and gone to Ivy Leagues for free. But there is no instant success. You cannot shortcut the shortcut. This is work. You learn the strategies, you practice correctly, and then you get faster. And that's how you get the higher scholarships, even full rides. So the great thing about us as homeschoolers is that we can make test prep an elective in our school. We can call it test prep, test skills. If we do it a semester, we can give them half a credit. If we do it over a year, we can give them a full credit. So your kids can beat SATs and ACTs and PSATs and CLTs because it's a matter of knowing that the math, in most cases, does not necessarily have to have a lot of crunching of numbers, but learning to look at them very logically with a critical eye to find the fast answer. Conquering the reading passages where you can skip up to 75% of the passage and still get the answers right. Learn the 5 types of questions and how to put them in the right order because they're all answered differently. Just learning the recurring patterns throughout the whole test and the logical answers. And then, of course, practicing the correct way, which, of course, is using only questions by the test makers themselves, not fake questions that you can buy at the store. And start early because it takes time to internalize information to really solidify it so that you can apply it appropriately. So why is scholarship money tied directly to a test score? That is because colleges get their national rankings based on scores. So the higher the score, the more money that you're going to get because it makes the colleges look good. They roll out the red carpet. 85% of colleges are going to admit and give money on your scores alone because they know that once their rankings go up based on your test score, they can attract the students who can pay full sticker price because they want to go to the higher ranking schools. Or if they admit a talented athlete with just the minimum to get in, then they're going to need higher scores to get their rankings back up. So this is why colleges are out looking for your students with the high scores. So let me give you kind of an example of a few colleges from a few different states. These start at anywhere from full tuition up to a full ride plus. Now that plus could mean honors dorms, study abroad stipends, thousands of dollars of spending cash, and so forth. So you can see, for example, Alabama State. You can get the Presidential Academic Scholarship on a 26 ACT or a 1240 SAT. Now, sometimes they'll factor in GPAs or whether they're competitive or not. But for the most part, you get an idea. Georgia Southern in Georgia, the 1906 scholarship on a 25 ACT or 1200 SAT. Now, you can also see how sometimes just one more point or two or another 100 on the SAT can actually take you another $10,000 to $20,000 more. So, for example, Liberty Christian there in Virginia, you can receive $5,500 a year on a 28 ACT or 1310 SAT. Go up 6 points on your ACT or 220 on your SAT, and you can receive complete full tuition. Utah State, $1,350, or basically a full ride. University of Mississippi, $1,500 or $24,000. So you can see how important these test scores are. You can go to most colleges' website and they'll be listed, letting you know what your scholarship you can get based on your test score. So ultimately, your SATs and ACTs and PSATs and CLTs can not only determine where you get to go to college, but who's going to pay. As a matter of fact, over your lifetime, a student can actually earn $1 million more in their salary over students who don't have a college degree. And you can find that information right here at the collegescorecard.com. .ed.gov. So tells you right there the statistics they've seen over the years. $1 million more. Now here's the great thing about incorporating test prep in your home as another class, and that is your students will be tested all their life. Not just getting into college, not just getting scholarship money, but if they go on to post-grad school, law school, med school, they can use the strategies and techniques for most standardized tests. These are some of the tests that families have said that they used our program on, and it worked because standardized tests follow the same major feature that normalize and follow the same patterns. And there's one objective, indisputable answer and several distractors. So we have so many people who use our program on things like the GRE or the LSAT, or if you're going to get your CPA test license. And you know, I had an engineer gentleman tell me that he said, you know, we get tested every 6 months and for our certifications, and they're not testing us on engineering, they're testing us on our thinking skills, because that's the one thing that all the employees have in common, because they're different ages and come from different backgrounds. I had a young girl in Dallas a couple of years ago said, Mrs. Burke, I have your program, I used it, did well in the SAT, but I had taken Mandarin 1 and I wanted to test into Mandarin 2, and she said, I didn't know most of the words, but I just used the college prep strategies, college prep genius strategies, and tested out as a native Mandarin speaker. So that's just one of the fun stories. That testimonial is on my website, so you can go watch that. So you're thinking, well, you know, we definitely need free college. We definitely have seen a lot of the samples of different areas and opportunities to get it. But my child's not a good test taker. Or maybe you have a good test taker and a bad test taker. What does that even mean? Well, students who tend to consider themselves a good test taker are the students who are more logically minded naturally. They're born that way. It's intuitive to them. And so for them, those students don't know everything, and learning a few more little things can really put them over the top. So they need to start test prep early to gain that test maturity. Or you may have your other student who's just as smart, but they are more of the rule follower, the one who second guesses themselves, overthinks the question, and stresses over everything. So for them, starting them early can really lessen that test anxiety. And the great thing is testing on these logic tests, anybody can do well, because logic is not a personality trait. It is a skill like golf and piano, and anybody can train their brain to think more logically. So we're really honored and very blessed to have won a lot of unsolicited awards. Kathy Duffy has reviewed our program. You can go to her website and read the full review. Heidi St. John has used our program. We're endorsed by the Old Schoolhouse magazine. Certainly Mike Smith of HSLDA. We have tons of video testimonials on our website. If you go to collegeprepgenius.com/testimonials. We are the official test prep for Veritas Press. We're the official test prep for HSLDA, for the CLT, for Christian Academy of America. And the bottom line comes down to this, is that timing is the killer of opportunities, because as your kids get older, they're going to get busier. They are going to get more school and more homework, and maybe they'll take on a part-time job or play sports or friends or church club. So they're going to have a very maxed out schedule and have less time to improve, because you can't get time back. And their opportunities are going to start to decrease. So start your kids earlier, as soon as you can. That's the biggest complaint that parents will say is to me at conferences is that I wish we would have started earlier, because now we're at the end of the rope and now we're really scrambling to figure out what to do. But your kids can ace these tests. I've taught in Virginia many times, and I love your state, and I really want to share with you the different ways that your kids can learn way more strategies than I showed you today and be able to get their scores high and hopefully get free college. So we have an online e-course that our convention special is where you can get the comprehensive e-course for $139. It's very mom and dad friendly. You don't have to do a thing. You can download the homework guide that has quiz questions. There's essay templates. There's journal for success, checklist for success. It's a whole year access for 1 year, and all your kids can use it. And then at the end of the year, if you want to renew it, it's $49. And then since I'm not there at the conference and you're not able to come to my booth and purchase it, you can just go to my website, collegeprepgenius.com, and you can click on online comprehensive e-course. And then at the end, you want to use the code HEAV50, and that will knock off $50 off the $189 to make it $139. Now, what you're going to get in the program, in the comprehensive special, is you'll get our Vocab Cafe book series. These are fun, wholesome books that your kids can read and learn 300 SAT words like lugubrious or plebiscite, and you can learn those in context in the story. You can also use them as a literature credit as well as a creative writing credit, because your student can use the same words to write them back into their own story. And then you also get our 15 secrets to free college. Those 400 colleges that I talked about that will meet up to 100% of need, which is not needy, but that's just the formula that the colleges use. You'll find that in this book. We also show you how to not make the top FAFSA mistakes. If you're already in college, can you get more scholarship money? We go through all of those as well. And then you'll also get our High School Prep Genius book, which has also been reviewed by Kathy Duffy, and you can read her review on her website. So it is a step-by-step guide of what you should be doing every month of every year in high school, so that you don't miss any dates. You can skip the MCAT with a high test score. We show you about GPAs and weighted, unweighted credits, how to do transcripts, just so much information that comes as an e-reader as well. And then we have a no-risk money-back guarantee for homeschoolers or anybody in general, because I also bought way too much stuff that I never used as a homeschooling mom. And I will tell you, I had a lady call me and she said, I'm in that 30-day period, may I get my money back? I just happened to answer the office phone that day. And I said, absolutely, but do you mind sharing with me why? She didn't know she was talking to me, because we really want to always make our product better. And she said, yeah, it looks like work. I said, yeah, it actually is. There's no instant success. You can't shortcut the shortcut. You got to learn the strategies. You got to learn the patterns, and then you have to practice, and you'll get that accuracy before speed. And that's not overnight. I mean, if you get better at piano or sport, it takes time to learn and to practice. So practice makes permanent. And we just recently, last fall, started resuming our in-person classes. So these were something we'd been doing for 17 years all across the United States as well as several countries. And so we were shut down like everyone in lockdown, but now they're resuming. And so if you are interested in hosting one of our live classes in your city, it's a 2-day boot camp. Your kids are free for the class when you get a minimum of 10 students. It's $395 and $295 for their sibling, but your kids are free. It could be at a church, a house, library, it could be at a school. And your students will also get the e-course as a bonus, that 1-year subscription. So you can either text the word host to that same number, 256-293-5265, or you can scan the QR code as well, which I'll put up here. So I'll leave that up for a second so you can do that, or text the word host. This is because we now have it more automated. So once you say I'm interested in a class, then you'll get information and we'll answer any questions that you may have. But we'd love to come to your city. We love coming to Virginia. And then we also pivoted to virtual boot camps back in 2020. So if you have a student who needs more accountability, maybe there's not a live class in your area, and your student maybe not be self-directed to watch the self-paced e-course, then we do have virtual classes online. We have 3 days, 8-week ones, and those are available all throughout the summer. And you can register online at collegeprepgenius.com/live virtual. If you use the same code HEAV50, and you still can get that $50 off. It's normally $355. And you also get the tape versions of the class in case a student misses the class. So I'll leave this up here now for you to have. So to get the notes to the seminar, I know you probably feel like you've been drinking from a fire hose. You want to use that number, 256-293-5265, and text the word fingertips, and that'll come into your inbox. You'll get the notes. If you want to host the class, again, you can just scan the QR code or text the word host to that same number. Again, our comprehensive e-course, to get that, go onto our website and use the code HEAV50 to knock off $50 off either the virtual boot camp or our comprehensive e-course, either one. And that is good and through until June 19th, 2022. Hopefully this information has helped you to realize that no one should ever have to pay for college, because there's so many avenues, and I didn't touch on anywhere near how many more, how many hundreds of ways there are to go for free, but I did give you a few just to kind of get you started, and hopefully that will help your family, especially if you're in a situation like us who was one income and we didn't have any money for college, and ultimately threw away 7 trash bags of college offers, from full ride to free tuition to room and board, grad school, study abroad stipends, spending cash, and so forth. And then my son went on to receive tons of free offers to law school. My daughter was offered free grad school. So test taking, definitely something other that can help in so many different areas. So if you have any questions, let us know. You can email us. You can call us at info@collegeprepgenius.com. And we'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. So thank you so much. I hope your HEAV conference is worthwhile, and that you walk away equipped and excited to take on the next year to raise that next generation of amazing kids. So thank you so much.